Alright guys, welcome to WMMA now. Live fight or excuse me, not, I don't know why it's saying live fight companion. Hold on, I'm going to edit that real quick here. Okay, so we are live. Welcome to the WMMA Scene Report, episode number 18. We're going to start as we always do. We're going to go over this past weekend's results. Then we'll go into the news for this week, and then we'll end it up with a couple fight previews. So first we're going to go to One Warrior Series 4, held by One Championship. It's based off of they have like a little reality show. In the U.S. it's aired on YouTube that they go out. It's kind of like a mix of Dana White's Looking for a Fight and Dana White's Contender Series. It's hosted by Rich Franklin, and they had a couple ladies fights. First one, at 115 pounds, So-Yul Kim defeated Yuko Suzuki by unanimous decision. So-Yul Kim climbed to 3-1. Suzuki fell to 7-8. So I got to watch this fight. Kim just dominated Suzuki from the opening bell to the ending bell. I mean, Suzuki had mounted no real offense of any type. Kim was way better than her on the feet, but what really surprised me was that Suzuki's known as more of a grappler. Her husband's a fighter and One Championship, but Kim improved her ground game a lot and just was constantly on Suzuki's back when it went to the ground. So, congrats to So-Yul Kim. Next up, also at 115 pounds, Michelle Ferreira defeated Nyreen Crowley by TKO due to knee and punches, 45 seconds of round 3. Michelle Ferreira came in on 24 hours notice. I guess she was already there in Singapore when the call came. She ended up replacing Ji-Yeon Seo, and she took it to Nyreen Crowley in that fight. It was a good fight, and the ending sequence was really brutal, really fun to watch. So if you got a second, go ahead and check it out. I didn't get to watch the last two fights yet, but also at 115 pounds, Adila Johani defeated Roshni Kara by KO TKO due to referee stoppage at 14 seconds of round 1. Johani climbed to 2-2, and Kara fell to 0-1. And then finally, at 121 pounds, Anita Karam defeated Gita Suarsono by unanimous decision. Karam climbed to 1-1. Suarsono fell to 1-1. So moving along, Saturday, I don't know how you'd be able to watch this fight. Hopefully someone will be able to find it. But Mongolia had their first, I believe it was their first professional women's MMA fight. It was at 115 pounds. Zoljargel Ganbatar defeated Batmunk Adguntuya. Apologies if I am butchering these names. Ganbatar climbed to 1-0, and Adguntuya fell to 1-1. That was at MGL 1 Fight Night 3 in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. So, you know, Mongolia is, I think, one of these countries that's going to be up and coming in Asia, and they've had female fighters a couple female fighters out of there, but first time that Mongolia ever featured an actual women's bout. So, congrats to those ladies for being trendsetters or trailblazers. Hopefully trendsetters in their country. Of course, then we're going to go to the UFC 235. Hannah Cifers defeated Polyana Viana by split decision. I thought it was a close fight. I definitely thought Cifers deserved the win. She just found her right hand over and over again. She was able to get inside against Vienna. Vienna did better on the ground, I thought. She was able to neutralize Cypher's ground and pound, and I think it was the second round. But yeah, I definitely gave it to Cyphers in the first and third rounds. And then the very next fight at 135 pounds, Macy Chiasson defeated Gina Mazzani by KO TKO due to punches at 1 minute and 49 seconds of the first round. Great finish for Macy Chiasson. I'm going to have to watch the fight again myself. Tough luck to Gina Mazzani. Chiasson climbed to 4-0. Mazzani fell to 5-3. Both of those fights are available for replay on UFC Fight Pass. And then on the main card, which was pay-per-view, Weili Zhang defeated Tecia Torres at the strawweight division by unanimous decision. I did do a full video review on this one. One thing I didn't mention in my review, though, and was one of the biggest keys to Zhang winning, was that Zhang was pushing the pace. She was pressing forward, pushing the action. Torres just doesn't fight well off the back foot. She's just not used to it. Any fighter that is able to take the fight to her, she has a hard time with. So that was it for this past weekend. So we're going to move along to some MMA news. First up, Jessica Penne versus Jodie Esquibel, rescheduled for UFC Fort Lauderdale, April 27th. If you happen to forgot, this fight was scheduled not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I believe, where fortunately Jessica Penne, first she missed weight on Friday, and then the day of the event, she fell and got a bad sprain in her ankle, so she had to pull out the day of the fight. I guess they figured that April 27th will be enough time for Penne to heal. Hopefully so. Invicta FC bantamweight Julia Avila, the Raging Panda, has signed with UFC. She's coming off a KO TKO win in her last fight. That was in November, I believe. So she is now signed with the UFC. So congrats to Julia Avila. All right, if you follow Paige Van Zandt on social media, you might have noticed she sent out on Twitter and Instagram that she broke her right arm again. I think it was the right arm, the same arm that she had broken before. She was scheduled to face... She's originally scheduled to face Pauliana Botelho for UFC 236 in Atlanta, April 13th. Then they moved her from fighting Pauliana Botelho. She was supposed to fight Montana De La Rosa. Now that fight is completely off because of PVZ's broken arm. Hopefully they'll be able to find a replacement for De La Rosa. On the same note, in UFC 236, after they moved PVZ out of the fight with Botelho, PVZ got replaced by Lauren Mueller to face Pauliana. So that should be an interesting fight at 125 pounds. Next up, Invicta flyweight Victoria Leonardo announced via social media that she is signed to fight for Bellator 218 Friday, March 22nd. Opponent to be announced. I did notice there was one other flyweight fight for that evening. She might be stepping in for one of those two. Bellator hasn't updated the website yet, so not quite sure. Also, another first is happening this weekend. Jamaica's first female MMA fight will be held at RFL 2 this weekend. It's a 125-pound amateur fight between Shanice Blake versus Lisa Fraser. So, yet another country, putting on their first women's mixed martial arts bout. I mean, even if it's only amateur, it's a step in the right direction. So, good for RFL 2 down there in Jamaica. Okay, anybody remember Chan Mi John from the UFC? Korean girl, but she had her hair dyed blondish. I guess she was quietly released from the UFC. That I don't remember them announcing it, or it wasn't in one of those announcements where a bunch of fighters were missing from the roster. Apparently, she has been released. She is returning to action March 30th in Seoul at WGFC number 2. That'll be at Jeonchun Gymnasium. I'm not sure if it'll be viewable online or not. I'll keep an eye out. John went 0-2 in the UFC. She lost decisions to both, who was it? J.J. Aldrich, who she came in on a late replacement against, and then she dropped another decision to Sherry Kondo in, I want to say, China. And then anyway, after those two fights, she switched camps to Team Mad down there in Busan, and she was training alongside former UFC fighter and Road FC atomweight champ Sahi Ham. I know she suffered a broken ankle and was injured for a good while. So good to see her back in action, even if it's no longer in the UFC. Also, guys, I'm sure if you're a subscriber, you probably noticed the video. Invicta FC had the biggest news this past weekend. It even went out during the broadcast of UFC 235. They announced what they're calling their Phoenix Rising series. The first event is May 3rd in Kansas City. It's going to be a series of excuse me. It's going to be a series of one-night 8-fighter tournaments. The first one's going to be the strawweight tournament, and it's going to the first round's going to be one round, random draw. It's going and each finish gets a bonus, and the opponent with the fighter with the fastest finish gets to select their semifinals opponent. If no first round doesn't result in a finish at all in the quarterfinals, then the semifinals goes to a random draw. Semifinals, another one-round, 5-minute fight. The reason this is happening this way is because the commissions only allow a fighter to fight for 25 minutes or 5-minute rounds in one night. So the finals will be a 3-round affair for the full 3 5-minute rounds. Again, I believe in the semifinals there will be finishing bonuses as well. Let me just bring up Invicta's website, and I'll give you a list of the fighters for this first inaugural event happening May 3rd. It's going to be the strawweights. Bring it up here real quick. Okay, so the fighters are going to be Mizuki Inoue, 13-5, Janessa Morandin, 10-2, Danielle Taylor, 10-4, Juliana Lima, 9-5, Callan Curran, 4-6, Brianna Van Buren, 5-2, Sheridan Jacobson, 5-4, and Suna Davidsdottir, 3-0. So there's, 2 former Invicta FC title challengers, 3 UFC veterans. This is going to should be a very good tournament coming up. I'm very excited. I'm probably going to apply tomorrow to get for a media pass for that one. Very much looking forward to it. Should be very fun. If you're familiar at all with Combate Americas, they've done their Copa Combate tournaments. It's basically the same format, short fights in the semifinals, quarters and semifinals, to have a full fight at the end. So that's it for the news. So we're going to go to the fights for this weekend. Okay, so let's see, which one's first? Okay, Friday night, Combate 32, Mexico versus Spain, has a couple of ladies' fights. First up, at 120 pounds, is Erendira Ordonez taking on Paulina Vargas. Ordonez is 2-2. You might remember her. She was last seen in Combate. She faced the pro boxer Amanda Serrano. Serrano defeated her by, I believe, unanimous. No, she defeated her by standing rear naked choke, if I remember correctly. Her opponent, Paulina Vargas, is 3-0, and she is a teammate of UFC fighters Alexa Grasso, Irene Aldana, and Invicta fighter Karina Rodriguez. So she's out of that Lobo gym. Expect good hands out of her. I've seen 1 or 2 of her fights. She has good hands. Also on the card, a little higher up, is an atomweight fight between Alitzel Mariscal, 1-0. And she is taking on Vanessa Rico Fernandez out of Spain, who is 3-4. So these ladies are like 5'0" and 4'11". So a couple of half pints facing off. Also this weekend, Saturday, One Championship, Reign of Valor has a couple ladies bouts. First up, at 115 pounds, is Burmese fighter Bozena Antoniar, who is 1-1. I believe she's coming off her first win. And she is taking on Adrilora Boniface out of, looks like, Malaysia, who is 0-3. And then also at 115 pounds, a couple fights up the card, Hei-Jin Lin, who is a Kunlun fight and Road FC veteran, is making her promotional debut. She is 8-2. She is taking on One Championship veteran Jo Marie Torres, who is 4-2, and she is out of the Philippines. Hei-Jin Lin is out of China. And then Saturday is UFC on ESPN Plus number 4. Headlined by Derek Lewis versus Junior Dos Santos in heavyweight division. It has one lone ladies fight. Yana Kunitskaya from Russia, who is 11-4, taking on Marion Renaud, 9-4-1, the Belizean brawler. That fight's in the bantamweight division at 135 pounds. Out of these two, I'm gonna take Kunitskaya. I think she might be a bit riskier choice, but Renaud just has not been impressing lately. And she's also, I think she's 42 now. She's going to hit that wall. I mean, she's due to hit that wall anytime athletically. I'm going to go with Kunitskaya on this one by decision. And then finally this weekend, we're going back to Friday night. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to be doing a live fight companion for this. So stock up on the energy drinks. I know I will. Deep Jewels, number 23. It's taking place in Karaku, the famous Karakuan Hall in Tokyo. 11 bouts in the ring. Let's see. They're starting with an amateur bout at 125 pounds. Mikiko Shimizu, 1-0, taking on Shoko Fujita, making her amateur debut. And then opening up the professional main card at 105 pounds in the atomweight division. Emi Sato, 4-2, taking on Suwanam Boonsorn, 2-1. Boonsorn is out of Thailand. And if you may remember, late last year in December, I did a fight review featuring her versus Loma Lukbunmi. Boonsorn basically walked out of the ring carrying Loma Lukbunmi's arm. She hopped onto her back and then hopped to armbar position, and I'm surprised Lukbunmi's arm wasn't completely broken. So that's definitely one of the fights to keep an eye on. Next up in super atomweight, 108 pounds, Ai Shimizu, 2-1, taking on Sei Kokuo, making her professional debut. Ai Shimizu is coming off a win over Nanaka Kawamura at Ryzen, their New Year's Eve event. Next fight's going back down to atomweight. Mizuki Oshiro making her professional debut against Kotori Tamiya, also making her professional debut. That's a 2-round fight. Actually, a lot of these fights are going to be 2 rounds. Only the last 4 are going to be 3 rounds. Next up, we're moving down even farther in weight, all the way to 97 pounds. I don't know what you would call this weight class. Subatomic weight, I guess. Yasuko Tamada, who I believe turns like 50 this year. Let me check real quick here. Oh. She'll turn 52 in June, so she's 51. Yasuko Tamada, 15-10-3. You might remember her. She challenged Michelle Watterson for the Invicta FC atomweight title like 4 or 5 years back. She is taking on the much younger, much less experienced Madoka Ishibashi, who is 1-3. Next fight, we're moving all the way up to 121 pounds. Yuko Oya, 9-6, taking on Asami Nakai, 1-1. Asami goes by her ring name Akaringa, I believe. Probably Oya is definitely more experienced, but Nakai, I believe, is someone that Deep Jules wants to push. Might want to go with Nakai on this one. Previous fight, go with Tamada. Alright, next up, also at 121 pounds. Sachiko Fujimori, 4-4, is taking on Yukari Nabe, 5-3. I've seen Nabe fight once or twice. I don't remember seeing Fujimori fight. Go with Nabe on that one. Next up, we're moving into the 3-round fights. At 125 pounds, Kana Watanabe, 5-0-1. She is a both Deep Jules and Ryzen veteran. She is taking on Korean debutante Suman Khan, making her, again, debutante, so pro debut. Choice is obvious in this one. Watanabe. They're just feeding her right now. Next fight is set for 150 pounds. King Reina Miura, 10-2, taking on Japanese debutante Mao Ueda. Again, this is another one. The choice is obvious. King Reina. She's had trouble her last few fights. She dropped a fight to Cindy Dandwa in Ryzen. Then she won a fight in Deep Jules, I believe. It might have been shoot boxing. Oh, she dropped a fight to Cindy Dandwa December 29th of 2017. She came back last year with 2 wins in Deep Jules over Korean fighters who had never fought before. Then she won a shoot boxing fight against someone she had beaten in MMA. And then she dropped a unanimous decision to Caitlin Young last August in Ryzen. And then she had a very tough fight against Judith Reese in Deep Jules 22 on December 1st. So, you know, King Reina, she's one of the draws for Deep Jules. So she's having a tough time lately in the past year. So they're giving her the easiest fight they can just to give her a win. Probably boost her confidence. Okay, next up. Co-main event, 105 pounds. Emi Tomomatsu, 13-14. Emi's been around for a long time, it feels like, in the Japanese women's MMA scene. You know, she's always had a relatively even record. She's not an easy out for really any fighter. She's not an easy out for all but the toughest fighters. She is taking on Hikaru Ano at 3-1. This is one of those fights where it's like, you know, Tomomatsu is not getting any younger. She's been around forever. Whereas Hikaru Ano is much younger and possible prospect. So why do they keep feeding these younger fighters to the older veterans? There's no point. Like, let the aging stars go and build up the younger fighters. JMMA is weird like that. It's not just in Deep Jules. It's not just the women's fighting. I mean, they do it all the time for the men, too. It's just one of those things that's weird about the Japanese MMA scene. Anyway, moving on to the main event. It's at 108 pounds, super atom weight. The current Deep Jules atomweight champ, Tomoima Aisawa, 12-8. She's riding a 3 or 4 fight win streak, including her most recent win for the Deep Jules title last year. She is taking on Kana Asakura, 13-3. Sure you're familiar with Kana from Ryzen. She's coming back to Deep Jules after losing to Ayaka Hamasaki New Year's Eve. This fight could go, you know, 2 strong wrestlers, both wrestling bases. Both of them need work on their striking. honestly, I think this fight could go either way. A lot of people are going to pick Asakura, but Maesawa is on that riding a nice win streak. So, yeah, I'm gonna say it's gonna go either. It could go either way. Asakura is obviously more hyped. Toma Maesawa is less hyped because she's not fighting for Ryzen. But if Maesawa comes away with the win, expect her to see her in Ryzen in the future. So, guys, that's it for this week. I usually try to keep these shows to around a half hour. A little under right now, but thanks for tuning in and watching. This is a good weekend of fights this last weekend. Should be a good weekend of fights this weekend. I will be doing a live fight companion for Deep Jewels because it's actually starting at a decent hour. I'll also be keeping an eye on the Combate Americas stream, which should be happening at the same time. If you're interested in watching Deep Jewels and you're outside of Japan, you are going to need a VPN, a virtual private network. You're going to have to set it to Japan, and you're going to go to Abema, ABEMA.TV, and it should be very easy. They'll list their channels right on the main page. It should be easy to find the Combate channel that will be hosting Deep Jewels. They'll also be hosting the Deep 88 Impact. I think it's 88 Impact right after that. So keep an eye on that this weekend. Until then, thanks for tuning in. And what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMAC Now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts platform on YouTube. Guys, have a good night.